One word that's really at the heart of a lot of video games is freedom. And for no game is this more true than the return of Ubisoft's much beloved and iconic Danger Tourist simulator that asks the question: if you were given an entire country, a few guns, and as many tools of mayhem as you can assemble from stuff you can find in the shed, could you free a nation? This is why you should be excited for Far Cry 6. This newest installment in the long-running Far Cry series will take players to the beautiful island nation of Yara, which is embroiled in conflict between a violent government regime and the ragtag group of freedom fighters trying to overthrow them. This setting is a perfect fit for the measured chaos that the series has made itself famous for, with ample room in the theme for plenty of the usual healthy mix of tactical, methodical stealth combined with explosive, over-the-top action and the tendency to transition between the two alarmingly quickly. Then, alongside the base clearing, sector controlling missions that you expect from Far Cry, the trailers have hinted that not every minute of life on Yara will necessarily involve some sort of carnage, with an added focus on allowing players to hide in plain sight, through bribes and sabotage being viable ways to navigate around the dictator's forces in the open world. It seems subterfuge will be an interesting option in Far Cry 6 for when you don't really feel like going in guns blazing and just want to take in the sights that the island of Yara has to offer. And Yara looks set to provide some of the most diverse and interesting locales yet, from picturesque beaches with white sand, blue seas and the occasional offshore rig, to lush, dense tropical forests and the guerrilla camps that they hide, from quaint little towns bustling with culture to the imposing structures of the capital. Far Cry 6 will have plenty of variety in settings for the story to unfold and to make that classic Far Cry gameplay feel as dynamic and lively as possible. This is likely to come as great news for fans of the series. After the comparatively sparse landscapes of Far Cry 5, the setting of Yara might be one of the very best aspects of the game. Of course, it's the struggle for Yara's future that forms the main driving force of the plot, and your place in it. You play as Danny Rojas, who is a man or woman who has grown up in Yara and so knows all too well the struggles faced by its people under the military regime. So, after narrowly surviving an encounter with their forces, they join the resistance movement Libertad and decide to start taking the fight to the dictator Anton Castillo. Since Far Cry 3 in 2012 and the notorious Vaas Montenegro, one of the most memorable parts of the series has been its villains, with Vaas being at the top of many people's lists of greatest video games villains of all time, and Pagan Min from Far Cry 4 being just as eccentric and arguably just as lovable in that messed up way that villains are. A Far Cry villain is held to very high standards. And seeing as the antagonist of the last game, Joseph Seed, wasn't really seen by some to live up to expectations, there is extra pressure for a return to form, and for a villain that really makes an impression. And Anton Castillo, the calculating and ruthless dictator of Yara, looks like he might do just that. Anton will have the voice and likeness of Giancarlo Esposito, and he was made a big feature of the game's promotional materials. With a talent like Esposito on board, who has already proved himself capable of delivering a powerful performance that lends a villain a real dominating presence, Anton might have the series once again making video game halls of fame. Though it will be interesting to see how he is handled as a character and within the overall tone of the game, and how a perceived lack of the in-your-face quirkiness that helped Vaas and Pagan Min gain such popularity affects his reception from fans. Anton isn't the only character of note we'll be interacting with, however, as there will be a large supporting cast of characters to help us oppose his violent rule. Even Diego Castillo, Anton's teenage son, is, at least initially, reluctant to support the regime. Being less bloodthirsty and tyrannical than his father, Diego's conflict and development may play an interesting role in the story, as Anton struggles to bring even his own child in line with his vision. but mostly we will be interacting with fellow oppressed Yara locals as we journey to overthrow an entire military with as much havoc and violence as is physically possible. So we're going to need a little bit of help along the way, in the form of various freedom fighters who share our goals, and at least one maverick arms dealer. Because to take on Castillo's forces, we're definitely going to need an entire arsenal, and alongside the usual Far Cry fare of bows and arrows for stealth and black market military arms for when you want to go in loud, Far Cry 6 will feature a host of different special weapons. Truly embodying the cobbled together aesthetic of a guerrilla resistance movement, the game puts special focus on the customization of your weapons and even features some custom built tools for you to use. If you fancy an early look at some of these, check out the latest in Far Cry's wacky live action trailers by watching some of the Do Not Do It Yourself videos and see some of the best in Yaran amateur engineering, including a flamethrower, a nail gun and even a buzzsaw launcher that lets you take out your enemies with a CD playing the Macarena. Hands on your head, and now on your hips. Another significant development in the tools available to the player comes in the form of the Supremo backpacks. These roughly assembled armaments will let you turn the tides against enemies by suiting you up like a knockoff Iron Man, just with a lot less AC/DC and good looks and a whole lot more duct tape, giving you abilities such as a jetpack or even a missile launcher for when you really want to up the ante in a firefight. Or if you really feel like dealing some damage, you could ride into battle on one of the DIY vehicles, which creatively feature all sorts of turrets and plows welded and duct taped to vintage Americana cars. With this, we may see a focus on vehicular combat like never seen before in the series. Also, there will be a horse available for if you'd rather take a scenic canter up through the mountains, or would just rather be the lone outlaw type. But you don't necessarily have to be a one-person army in the fight for freedom. Far Cry 6 will see a return of adorable little pet friends that you can hire for their various uses. The available roster includes a punk rock chicken, a cool guy alligator and Chorizo, the most adorable sausage dog you'll ever see. What horrors will those little teeth bring? Only time will tell. So Far Cry 6 looks like it's shaping up to have a very promising main story, but what about if it still leaves you wanting more? Well, Ubisoft have already announced their plans for post-launch support for the game, and there are some things fans of the series might be quite excited about. There will be a suite of free additional content for people who buy the game, including regularly added missions in the form of the weekly insurgencies and unique objectives in the form of special ops. There will also be 3 unique story missions featuring interesting crossovers. One will start Danny Trejo, who you will have to help grow his taco business throughout Yara. Sure, that one will be nice and simple. Another will feature a Rambo supervan and looks to be full of cheesy action movie fun. And the last will be a Stranger Things crossover event and should add an interesting spooky twist to the Far Cry action. There will also be a paid-for season pass full of even more special content. 3 major stories will be explored, each centred around one of Far Cry's previous main antagonists. Titled Insanity, Control and Collapse, players will have to fight their way through each event as they take control of Vaas, Pagan Min and Joseph Seed in survival experiences with a focus on acquiring upgrades throughout multiple runs. The stories themselves promise to flesh out the backstories of each of the series' most iconic characters, so should make excellent additional content for both established fans and new players alike. Also, as an added bonus, the neon-soaked retro synthwave madness that is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon will be making a return, just to sweeten the deal even more. Throughout all of the DLC trailers, and indeed the trailers for the main game, an emphasis has been put on co-op gameplay, so it looks like it should be great fun to invite a friend along to join in the action. So there we have it, everything you need to know about Far Cry 6 ahead of its release. Are you excited for the next in Ubisoft's line of high chaos open world epics? What do you think of Yara and the characters we've been introduced to so far, and most importantly, which of the deadly little pet friends are you going to be taking with you and your fight for freedom. Please share your thoughts on the game with us in the comments, and if you would, please share your thoughts on this video too. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and feel free to share my content wherever you want, because it'd really help me out. There's plenty of other videos on the channel that you might enjoy as well, including ones about exciting new and upcoming releases, so you can subscribe, ring the bell and follow me on Twitter for updates. For now though, thank you again for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!